welcome to Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast, and if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. We do UFC gambling videos and overall entertaining videos about the UFC. We are also giving away $100 of cryptocurrency March 17th, so you have time to subscribe up until that point. That is the night of Verdum Volkov. Fight Night 127. We will be doing the drawing then, so get involved with this channel, this community. We are growing, and we are going to continue to, have this community be as exciting and fun as possible. So get involved, sign up. Now on to the first episode of What Happened? Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm. This is something I want to do. It's a new segment I want to do in the show. And let me know other fights or other ones that maybe we should go over and have a conversation about. First one, I felt like this was a perfect one to begin. We'll go through the fight. I rewatched it a couple times last night, just really, saturating myself in this fight and remembering the emotions and the experience of what happened and where these two ladies were in their life prior to that. So if we go back, Ronda Rousey at this time was transcending the sport completely. She had taken over the MMA world. She was the face of the UFC, completely the face of UFC. She had made the transition from a MMA superstar onto the Hollywood scene. She was doing movies. She really was changing from being just not really just, but a UFC champion to a household name that everybody knew. And that's really where she has exploded onto the scene at that time. I mean, of course she, somewhat is now. But at that time, she was on another level. So Holly Holm was coming into the UFC. She was a kickboxing champion. She was a boxing champion. She only had a couple fights in the UFC at this time. Raquel Pennington she had beat. So she was just kind of coming into the UFC. She was ranked 7th in the world at that point. Ronda Rousey was 12-0 at that point. She was 28. Holly Holm was 35. So a lot of people were knocking the fact of her age and coming into the UFC, and does she have the strength and ability of a younger athlete to compete in the UFC. Now the odds were, fight night, the odds were Holly Holm plus 700, Ronda Rousey minus 1200. So, unbelievable where these odds were, where these women were. The fight and the build-up prior to this was unbelievable. Everyone was just, I think that Holly took this fight a little sooner than probably she should have, but there was so much push and hype for this fight for two undefeated women to have who were obviously, Holly was known within her world. Ronda is the face of combat sports for women, and if not just the face of combat sports, period, at this point. Now, going into the fight, even the walkout, you saw Holly when she was walking out of that, coming out, it was almost like, and what she always seems like she is, nervous. She always has that nervous feeling to her when she's coming into a fight, and then of course she does that when she gets in the cage. She goes back and forth really quickly. She was doing that a lot. I believe it's for a little bit more of the nervous energy, get that out and be more prepared, because she's very, very technical, and I think the little jitters, get those jitters out of the way. When Ronda came out, Joe Rogan, I will remember at that time, Joe Rogan said, this is, when Ronda comes out, it's like Tyson walking out. And at that point, that's where she was. At that point, she was basically not only undefeated and a champion and all. It wasn't, can you beat Ronda? It was, how long will you last? How long can you last in the ring with her? People were getting, and just prior to that, Kohea, she knocked out Kohea in the first round. She beat Zingano prior to that. She beat Sarah McMahon. She beat Miesha Tate twice. I mean, at this point, Ronda Rousey was just destroying the entire division. And I will get back to the Kohea part of this. But remember the Kohea fight prior. We will get back to that. So, obviously, they're about to touch gloves, the ref, and I thought it was interesting that Ronda decided not to touch gloves, and Holly quickly put up her gloves like, hey, good fight, and Holly is more of a crowd favorite, I think. She's not, she's a very nice girl. I mean, even all of her interviews that I've seen with her, and they just say about her, she's just a great person. So it was interesting that she wouldn't even touch gloves, Ronda wouldn't even touch gloves. So that first round, bell rings. And I honestly believe at 4 minutes and 33 seconds of that first round, the fight was over. I know it ended in the second, but the fight was over. in the first round within 30 seconds. And I'm going to tell you why. So in that first exchange, they come out, first exchange happens, nothing really, both of them kind of, glancing shots and blocks. Ronda's pushing forward, and at this time, Holly throws a couple shots, Ronda throws a wild shot, blocked a little bit. Now at 4 minutes and 33 seconds of that first round, Holly lands an extraordinary left straight to Ronda's jaw. And that shot, literally, I feel, when I watch this fight, like I said, I rewatched it a couple times, that portion, that 30 seconds, Ronda comes out and she is pushing the action. She is pushing the action. And that is her game. She wants to push the action. Then she wants, obviously, opportunities for takedowns. And, of course, that's where she's headed. She wants to get that pressure, get in tight, get the clinch going. So that's obviously her game plan. But that first hook that landed, Ronda, her face changed. Her mouth ended up staying open basically the rest of the fight after that. She got a little pale in the face. I feel that shot rocked her, and we all know that Ronda can take a punch. If we move forward to her next fight real quickly, she fought Amanda Nunes, and Amanda Nunes was dropping bombs on Ronda's head, and Ronda actually was stood standing the entire time and was knocked out. I don't know how she did it. That just shows how tough she is and an amazing fighter she is. She was taking blow by blow, and Nunes couldn't put her down, and they had to stop the fight at that point. So that just shows, again, just the reason I'm saying that is just because it shows that punch, although it did not drop her, or what, she can hold it. She's got that poker face that she can hold, but that, if you rewatch it, she got nailed with that big shot early. So at that point, at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I thought was such a changing point. Ronda changed so completely. Now moving in maybe another 30 seconds past that, up until about the 4 minute mark, her whole stance changed. She was wide at the base. She kind of looked almost clumsy and almost tired, and we're, a minute into this fight. It just showed how much damage that Holly was able to do within that first minute. At 4 minutes and 10 seconds of the first round, she drops another big bomb directly on Ronda's jaw, and Ronda's now taking a lot of damage. Ronda is actually landing some nice shots, but she's not landing at the strength that Holly is landing. Now at the 2 minute and 41 second mark, which I actually believe mentally broke Ronda, mentally broke her. And now this is at the point where they get in the clinch. And even Joe Rogan again is saying, hey, this is where Ronda wants to be. This is her wheelhouse. She gets into a great position for a nice hip toss. Great position for it. And 10 times out of 10 times, she has flipped the girl over, got on top, able to throw an armbar in there, or able just to do some ground and pound. Most of the time it's the armbar there, fight over. Gets her to the ground. Actually, she's trying to get her to the ground in this hip toss position, and Holly reverses it and actually ends up on top of Ronda. Unbelievable that she was able to just reverse it, get on top of her. Now at that point, in this exchange on the ground, Ronda's reaching for that arm. And here, and almost as a fan, you're saying, okay, this is it. This is probably it. This is where she loses. This is, hey, great fight, Holly. She's gonna grab the arm, and you can see she's trying to grab the arm. She's trying to get it, and Holly just pops out. And Ronda's face, if you rewatch again, once Holly gets up, Ronda starts to walk towards Holly, and she looks like she's been in a 5-round war already. She's exhausted, she's tired, her face is red, her mouth is open, and Holly looks like she's barely even has done any exhaustion yet. It was just unbelievable to see where she was at this point, and was her nerves getting to her at this point? Like, holy shit, Holly Holm is for real. Like, is that where she was? So, the next minute or two, some exchanges come back and forth, but then at the 52nd mark of that first round, Holly Holm takes Ronda Rousey down. Doesn't stay on her, I don't even believe she even strikes her at that point, but takes her down just to get out of the position, but shows her strength. It really showed Holly Holm's strength, and it shows where Ronda was in this fight at this point. She's tired, she's hurt, and again, the announcers aren't even... It's almost like they don't even know how to explain what's happening. Besides Joe Rogan, he does a great job. But it's just almost like this is surreal. This is surreal at this point. 50 seconds, she takes her down. Some more exchanges happen. Bell rings. Now, I think one of the one of the, again, a sign of people not prepared of all of the scenarios that can happen. And I forget the coach's name off the top of my head, Ronda Rousey's coach. But as soon as Ronda Rousey sits down in her corner, and she looked like she had been beat to hell in that first round, and she's tired. She comes over to the corner, and the first thing that her corner says is, beautiful job, great work, beautiful, beautiful, do this. And they obviously, they don't stay on that camera angle for the entire time. It's maybe 30 seconds, it's 30 seconds for Holly, and so that's kind of it. But I think at that point, the corner is not even sure what to do. The corner is panicking, but they're trying not to be panicked, so they're like, well, what do we normally do in a situation if we get the second round? Normally, Ronda's doing pretty well. I mean, at that point, I don't even think she has lost a round in her professional career. I mean, I'm not even sure if you go maybe one at some point that squeaked in there, but she at the point has probably never lost a round. So they just stuck to their game plan and said, hey, you're doing a great job. I think that was horrible, horrible advice on the coach's side. Ronda obviously was out of it. She was not looking good. I mean, she almost was in a complete daze when they're talking to her. And they, again, were not prepared for that conversation to say, well, what happens if she is getting her ass kicked in the first round? What are some of the things that we should say to her? They just stuck with, oh, well, she normally kicks the girl's ass, and they were just not prepared for it. So obviously the beginning of the second round comes out, and Holly continues to just torment Ronda with the exchanges, the harder shots. They are exchanging, but Ronda maybe landed one nice strike in this entire fight. I would say maybe one nice hook that she had landed off of a clinch. And then at 4:35 of the first round, Holly lands a beautiful sidekick to Ronda's chest. And again, that almost took the breath out of her. And again, she's trying to Ronda is trying to pressure, but she had nothing in the tank. She almost was confused in the situation of saying, should I take her to the ground? Even at this point, she's still not taking her to the ground. That's her go-to move, and Ronda is still just standing with her and not attempting to really do much on the ground. There was no effort to take this fight to the ground. At 4:09, Holly lands a beautiful left again, and at 4:06 was the kick heard around the world, ending Ronda Rousey. Of course, there was a couple seconds later after the ground and pound, and the biggest upset in possible UFC MMA history happens at UFC 193. I think that's an unbelievable scenario. It was really interesting to go back and look and rewatch this, and not only from a betting perspective of saying, wow, what did we miss? I always like to look at that and say, could I have ever talked myself into this? Could I have ever really, if I dove more into certain things or who people fought or what was going to happen, could I actually have made a nice play here and put money on Holly at plus 700? No, I did not bet Holly. It's not where I'm going with this. But could there have been a spot I could have looked at and said, wow, she's gonna dominate this fight? It's a very hard thing to look at, but is there a way to look at that? And the thing that nobody would ever know is what Ronda's strategy was. Everyone knew Ronda's strategy is take the girl to the ground, take her to the ground, work the clinch, dirty boxing, flip her on her back, get on top, work the arm bar. That's just always been her thing, always. Now, the reason why I brought up Correia before is because in that fight with Correia, or actually I should say prior to that fight with Correia, she had made a big stink about her boxing skills. She had continued to talk who she's working with and all these named boxing coaches that were then talking her praises and saying, oh, she's great, she's great, she's great. And there was a lot of talk about her boxing. And it really almost wanted to be where I guess she was kind of sick of everyone saying she's one-dimensional. Hey, she's going to do an armbar, she's going to do an armbar. She wanted to step outside the box and say, I'm going to knock some people out. So against Correia, who you can't even put in the same spectrum of the striking ability of Holly Holm, but against Correia, she stood the entire time. She didn't attempt the takedown. She basically did. I mean, she actually did. She did knock her out, of course, but she was beating Correia in the strikes. She was dominating on the feet, and she ended up knocking her out. I think that completely screwed up Ronda Rousey. That gave her a false sense of security, and I think that she was not looked at, I think, at that point and saying, it's not like I can't beat her. I can beat anyone standing. And that coming into this fight had to have been her angle going into this fight. She had to have believed, I'm going to beat, and you could tell in other fights, she always wants to beat people at their game. That's what Ronda likes to do. And here hey, you're a kickboxing champ, you're a boxing champ, I'm going to stand with you and I'm still going to beat you. And I believe that's where she went with this. I believe that's what bit her in the ass. She maybe attempted one takedown. Out of the entire fight, she maybe took one takedown. So that's a telling sign there too that it wasn't even in her game plan at all. And it wasn't like her coaches said, take this to the ground. Ronda didn't want to hear that. Ronda did not want to hear to take this to the ground. So, interestingly enough, how this all transpired, how this all happened, Holly Holm takes home one of the biggest underdog plays ever in the UFC, coming against someone like Ronda Rousey. Unbelievable. So let me know what you guys think. Comment. Let me know if there's other ones of these that we should do. This is episode 1. What happened? Rousey versus Holm, and we're going to do many other of these that happened down the road in the past. More in the past, and we're going to dive more deep into those and the betting perspective side of it and what we've learned from it and what we missed. So that is What Happened, episode 1, and if you, again, have not subscribed to this channel. I'm giving away $100 of cryptocurrency March 17th. You have until March 17th to subscribe. And this is Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. See you next time. Boom!